This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we have a great Power Pundit panel as always. Robert Eidhoven is here, the political consultant with J3 Strategies, runs lots of political campaigns, including Sue Loudon's. We have Mike Bosma, managing director for the Bosma Group, John Sandy IV with the law firm of Jones Vargas, and Paul Enos with the Nevada Motor Transport Association. In discussions over the last few days, somebody had said to me that if you get rid of the sales tax exemptions and you lower the sales tax, that you can actually deal with a big chunk of the problem that Majority Leader Horsford says in terms of a $3.4 billion gap coming up in next session. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, I guess we'll have a lot of time to figure it out. I'm not so sure there won't be even a need for another special session, maybe late fall. Can you imagine having a lame duck legislature and governor dealing with another shortfall? I think it's difficult to predict the revenue side of this thing as it is to where our economy is going to go, not only in Nevada, but with our neighbors who we rely on for tax revenue. So we very well may be back at it in Carson City before the calendar year is up anyway.
Yeah, but Sam, a sales tax on food is the most regressive tax on the face of the planet. I mean, it proportionally taxes low-income people and exempts high-income people, because typically people they may have a different budget, but as a percentage of their income, and that's why usually it's considered bad policy across the United States to tax food, because of the way that it taxes inordinately the poor. And so I think we just got to be able to be a little bit more creative than that. And I think there's fixes. There really is to fix that problem, but it comes in smaller chunks rather than one big sweeping.
For example?
For example, depreciation on property tax, splitting the property tax rolls.
Well, we already have a split property tax rule.
Well, yeah, de facto, because of the way that they split the caps, removing the property tax caps. I mean, does it make any sense at all for two neighbors to pay different taxes even though their houses are valued exactly the same? They just happen to be different ages. Just let's rely on what the rest of the country's done to understand and fix these problems.
Well, and isn't that more of a local government issue than a state issue, Mike? Because the state only gets, out of the $3.64, the state gets what, about 17 cents out of that. So I mean, that's not necessarily an issue that is going to be fixed, or that's going to fix our state problem. That's more of an issue that's going to help the local government.
Well, actually, I was going to say I would disagree with that. The way that I see the math going, and the amount that goes to the school district, which is our #1 funding issue, that comes out of that property tax base, that actually it would solve a big part of that problem.
Yeah, and those policy issues, though, I think should be considered at a state level. I mean, obviously it's going to have a huge impact on local government, but all the decisions that are being made these days in Carson are affecting local governments, and I think that the legislative process needs to vet those.
You know what we haven't talked a lot about, which is kind of frustrating to me, is are we spending our money as efficiently as we can? Are we spending too much money?
I mean, just look at the Sage Commission report, right? I mean,
well, yeah, and you look at how our budget has grown. We have a spending cap that's been in statute since 1979. It's based off the budget of 1974. Really doesn't work anymore because we took all these things like PERS and employment security out of that budget. So we've been able to grow our budget by 40% over over a biennium. Shouldn't we be really looking at how we spend our money?
But Sam, to your question that you originally asked, and I think it's an important one I don't want to miss, is that I think just having everybody taxed on the fair market value of their real estate, that for business and for personal, it's just the fairest, equalest way to apportion that tax base across a very, very large base. And so if you did that, went to fair market value on everything, which by and large most states have done, that you're going to reduce the tax rate and just more fairly apportion, and it will create revenue. But I think how much revenue you create is a different question than what your tax base should be, because revenue should be based on what you need to spend to fund government, not necessarily how much you can extract from your populace.
But you look to throw in, to play the devil's advocate, that there is a wall of Harry Reid campaign that is about to come down, and
sure.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
We'll see if he uses his money to talk about his record of the last 3 years.
Okay, that's where we got to leave it. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this timeout.
On the next face-to-face, a recent poll says Tea Party candidate Scott Ashton could erode support for Republican challengers to Harry Reid. Will the GOP take its lumps from the Tea Partiers?
As always, you can watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day at NevadaNewsmakers.com. You can also download the show free of charge from iTunes to your iPod. Coming up on our next broadcast, part 2 of our interview with the happiest mayor in the world, Mayor Oscar Goodman of Las Vegas. We'll see you on the next broadcast.